with 2 years on active duty right here in Ogden as an active reserve recruiter. Worked up here for 2 years. I think I canvassed all up Washington Boulevard from way down there all the way up here, and Wall Avenue all the way down, and everywhere else. Spent a lot of time at the college. So, and as a matter of fact, I just realized this. Ogden is probably the third longest time that I've lived anywhere. I've lived in Salt Lake and Sandy, and then Ogden. So I would call Ogden my home away from home. I married right after high school. I have 2 grown children, and I also have a 5-year-old grandson and a 16-month-old granddaughter. I found my love. I'm an accountant. I found my love for accounting at when I attended Utah Technical College before it became Salt Lake Community College, and I've been in love with accounting ever since. And I know I'm getting a lot of those strange looks. Well, how can you love accounting? Well, you know, if we could sit down and talk about this for 4 or 5 hours, I'm sure I could convince you that accounting is a great profession to be in, and you would love it too. And of course, I got my associate's degree at Salt Lake Community College, and then I went to the University of Utah and got my accounting degree there. I worked in several family businesses in the 90s, providing accounting support. My father and my brother had steel businesses in Salt Lake County. Currently, I own and operate a sales and use tax consulting firm that I've had for the last 5 years, and I've operated that in Salt Lake County. So let's talk about my vision for the state of Utah. And I think some of the things that have been brought up today are very important. I watch Glenn Beck every night for about 5 to 15 minutes, depending on how long I can stand listening to him. And I do that right before I go to bed. I look at his, right there on Fox, and I listen to him. The other night, he had a picture of Jesus and Hitler right next to each other. And it goes back to this idea that we were talking about, social justice. And I'm going, is this what the far right really has to offer us? Is someone that will put these 2 pictures up and then say, this is Jesus' social justice, and then this is Hitler's social justice. And then he throws up FDR's social justice, and then Obama's social justice. There is something wrong with the direction that the far right is headed, and it is something that we have to capitalize on as Democrats in Utah. And I'll get to that a little bit later and why that is so important. But just think of those images and what those actually mean to you, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. My vision for Utah is bringing effective government. It's bringing the transparency back to Utah. The United States Senate right now is a dysfunctional body. It's not doing what it needs to do, and part of that reason is the fact that you've got the far right and you've got the far left, and we're not coming to the middle. We're not meeting. Senators don't talk to their constituents anymore. Senator Hatch, Senator Bennett don't do they don't have town halls anymore. They do telephone conferences, and that is supposed to be your direct connection to the senator. What I want to do, what I believe is important, is to have those town hall meetings so that what I'm doing now here, I will do this as a senator. I will make sure that I'm talking to each and every person that comes to listen and to ask questions. The other thing that needs to happen, and this directly is a technological advance that senators don't capitalize on, and that's the internet. What I want to do is I want to be able to have a website that everybody in the state of Utah can come to, can register, can express their concerns on legislation, can express their concerns everywhere from curb and gutters in the local city, all the way up to national defense, to jobs, to the economy. We need to talk about these things. We need to have a forum in which we can talk and discuss, not simply what's being said on the news at night, not the media, not Glenn Beck, and certainly not the toxic waste that we hear on certain forums. We need to have an honest, open discussion between Republicans, between Democrats, between independents. That's the only way we're going to get our country to move forward. is to bring us and have us meet in the middle. When we meet in the middle, then we solve our problems, and we're not doing that. And it's because we can't talk civilly to each other. And you brought up a very good point about the fact that that's what we have to be able to do. We have to be able to talk civilly, and we have to be able to know that we have differences, but know that our differences are not going to keep us from solving our problems. Now, there's a party that I found, and you might have heard about this. You know, we have the tea party, right? There's the coffee party now. The coffee party speaks to exactly what you're talking about. We have to be civil, we have to be able to explain what we want, and we have to do it in a way that is honorable, that brings back the fidelity that you were talking about. And we have to be able to say, look, we are decent human beings that can talk through our problems and then reach solutions. Now, are we all going to like the solutions that come up? No. But that's the beauty of working through solutions, is that once we have a solution and we find out if it works, then reasonable people will realize that it's working or it's not working, and then reasonable people will come back and say, this isn't working the way we planned it, and then we will have another solution and work through compromises, and that's what we need to do. So again, with effective government, we have to have those interactive websites. I want to be able to do webinars from Washington at least twice a month, probably more, so that I can get up and I can say on camera and to the internet, this is what I'm doing, this is the legislation that's in the Senate, this is why I'm for it, this is why I'm against it, and then you can put your input. You can say, Senator Stout, I don't think you're doing the right job. This is what the people of Utah want. And I'll say, okay, well that sounds good, and then we can have that discussion and then reach that compromise. Now, a little bit more about the specifics, because this is extremely important. Most of the my opponents out there, Republicans and even Sam, they don't have good plans. Their plans don't hold any water. The first thing that I want to do is make energy independence a reality. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is to increase domestic production of renewable energies. One example is wind farms. Here in Utah, we're producing about 10% of our capacity, which is very little. To give you an idea of the capacity of the wind farms that we can have in Utah, is it would handle 2 of the Hunter power plants that are down in Castleville. And that's a series of 3 and 4 coal-fired plants. So we have enough wind here in Utah, and it probably comes from Davis County or Salt Lake, wherever the strong Republicans are, that's where it's coming from. But we have 2 Hunter power plants. That's a lot of energy. The other thing that we need to do is increase the domestic production of natural gas. Utah ranks 8th in the U.S. with reserves of 6.1 trillion cubic feet. Now that's a lot of gas. Now, I just realized we're talking about wind and gas, and Republicans always talk about that too. But they're not doing anything about it to bring it to a reality to here in Utah, and that's what I want to do. It's going to bring jobs to the Uinta Basin. It's going to bring jobs to southern Utah. It's also going to bring jobs to central Utah. Now, the other thing that we need to be able to do is we need to increase the funding for energy technologies and research. Our universities here in the state are some of the top universities that can get funding and that can attract people to be able to actually develop those technologies. I want to be able to bring funding to Weber State. I want to be able to bring funding to the University of Utah and BYU too. I mean, I'm a U man, but I think I could get some money for them down there too.
Don't forget the Aggies.
Yeah, the Aggies too. Well, yeah. Any university here in Utah deserves the funding if we can get the programs. So the Aggies certainly, they've got some good programs up there too. So now let's talk about the next important thing, which these all go hand in hand, is recovery, growth, and prosperity. Jobs, jobs, jobs. What we need is a targeted tax credit for job creation in high unemployment areas. And I'm working on a 2-tier level. Basically, any county that has a higher unemployment rate than the state average.